It's not every week you get a performance that feels like a full-blown identity statement. But that's exactly what the Buffalo Bills put together in their dominant win over the New York Jets. A 30-10 beatdown in Week 2 that wasn't just about the score. It was about a team flexing its evolution on both sides of the ball. And at the center of it all, two names, James Cook and Joey Bosa. One carving up defenses with patient vision and decisive cuts, the other dismantling offensive lines with pure, relentless pressure. Let's start on offense, because this was arguably the best version of the Bills' rushing attack we've seen in a long time. When a team puts up over 200 rushing yards on 40-plus attempts, you know it wasn't a fluke. It was intentional, calculated, and systematic. James Cook was the spark plug, yes, but the story runs deeper. This was a clinic in modern rushing offense, built around tight end usage, smart formations, and perfect execution. Buffalo didn't just use tight ends. They built their offense around them. We're talking about constant two tight end looks, often three, with Dawson Knox, Jackson Haw, and Dalton Kincaid all playing key roles, not just in blocking, but in creating structural stress for the Jets' defense. These weren't just bodies on the field. They were chess pieces. The Bills used them to shift the formation strength, add gaps, and force the Jets to stretch their front wider than they wanted. And that created daylight, big, gaping lanes for James Cook to operate. Knox was throwing bodies around. Haw was sealing edges and moving defenders. And even Kincaid, who's not the same kind of physical blocker as the other two, was winning matchups in space. His effort on Elijah Moore's touchdown run was massive, driving a cornerback downfield 10 to 15 yards to clear the edge. That's the kind of buy-in you want to see from a young player, especially one known more for his hands than his blocking. It shows this is a team willing to get physical and do the dirty work, even from spots that are traditionally finesse roles. And it's that kind of work that allowed James Cook to absolutely shine. Over 130 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, and the kind of vision that only shows up when the game slows down for a running back. That's what stood out on tape, the poise. The ability to process chaos at full speed, to make subtle adjustments, and string together cuts without breaking stride. You don't pull off a 40-plus yard touchdown run without elite instincts and confidence. And that's exactly what Cook displayed. His footwork was elite. He was bouncing inside to outside, reading leverage, slipping between defenders with quick lateral cuts. What's scary for defenses is that Cook isn't just productive, he's efficient. Over 8 yards per carry on zone runs, and that's with over a dozen zone attempts. That's not a one-off burst. That's sustained, repeatable impact. And sure, the blocking was excellent, but you can tell Cook's making that blocking even better. He's running with rhythm, with awareness, making the right reads, and accelerating at the perfect time. He's becoming, or maybe already is, an elite zone runner in this league. And credit to the coaching staff here, too. The Bills didn't pigeonhole themselves into one run style. They were mixing zone and gap concepts all game long, and it kept the Jets off balance. You saw tight ends pulling across the formation, guards climbing to the second level, and well-timed motion to manipulate leverage. Everything was designed to create angles, and Buffalo took full advantage. When your scheme gives blockers the right geometry and your back is executing at a high level, this is what it looks like. Even with loaded boxes, because yes, the Jets did stack the box on over a third of Buffalo's run plays, the Bills still managed to rank second in EPA per rush this week. That tells you everything you need to know about how well this unit performed. It wasn't just raw yardage. It was high-efficiency, drive-sustaining football that took the air out of the Jets' defense. Now, the passing game wasn't quite as clean, but there's context that matters. Josh Allen's numbers were modest. 14 completions on 25 attempts for under 150 yards, but those stats don't tell the full story. Coming into the game, the Bills expected man coverage. That's what the Jets put on film in Week 1. Tons of man, lots of blitzing. So Buffalo came in with man-beating concepts ready to go. But the Jets flipped the script. They dropped their man coverage rate by 20%. They blitzed 15% less. Suddenly, Buffalo is facing mostly zone looks and a conservative front. That's a pretty big midweek pivot to make, especially when the game plan was built around a completely different look. So it's no surprise that things looked a little out of sync. Add in a couple drops from Dawson Knox, a questionable offensive pass interference call on Keon Coleman, and some shaky pass protection, and you've got the recipe for a clunky day through the air. That OPI call and those drops, they took away valuable downs from Allen, potential completions, fresh sets of downs, and rhythm. You start doing that multiple times, it disrupts the flow. And there were definitely moments where Josh Allen didn't have the cleanest pocket to operate from. Interior pressure forced him off his spots, shortened his progressions, and likely took away some of the deeper developing concepts they were trying to hit. But in the midst of that, there was one bright spot that's starting to simmer, and that's the connection between Josh Allen and Josh Palmer. It wasn't a breakout game, but you can feel it coming. Palmer led the team in receiving with just under 50 yards, including a tough catch on a dig route, and another chunk gain off a beautifully placed ball. What really stands out is the separation he's getting, especially downfield. You could tell Allen wants to get him the ball. On multiple plays, Palmer was the read, but pressure forced Josh to move on before he could let it rip. Once the protection tightens up, this could turn into a lethal combo. And let's not forget about the rotation at receiver. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Elijah Moore, all splitting snaps and contributing in different ways. Elijah Moore in particular had some nice moments, including that touchdown run. You're seeing a receiver room that's versatile and deep, and that gives the Bills options as they figure out the best combinations. And again, this is only week 2. They're still layering in wrinkles and finding their rhythm. If this is the floor for Buffalo's passing game, then the ceiling is going to be scary once it all clicks. One area where you could sense a little rust was on the interior of the offensive line. There were a few communication breakdowns in the run game, and some quick pressures allowed in pass protection. It wasn't disastrous, but it wasn't as clean as we've come to expect. But again, this unit has continuity, and they've played at a high level before. The expectation is that they'll tighten things up as the season progresses, and that's a good sign when your offense still puts up 30 points without firing on all cylinders. So between the running game that looks fully evolved, a passing game that's teasing something more, and a line that's still finding its groove, the Bills' offense has a lot to be optimistic about. You can see the vision. You can see the pieces falling into place. And when you got a back like James Cook running the way he is, it gives your offense a real identity to build around. This isn't just about explosiveness, it's about control. The Bills controlled this game physically, tactically, and emotionally. And they did it without having to empty the playbook or push the panic button when the passing game wasn't lighting up the scoreboard. While the offense was building its identity with a versatile and punishing ground game, the defense made an equally powerful statement, especially in the run game. The jump from week 1 to week 2 was massive, and honestly, it felt like the unit flipped a switch. Against the Jets, this was a defense that played with urgency, clarity, and discipline. They weren't just reacting, they were dictating. And the biggest difference? Everyone on the field seemed to know exactly what their job was, and they did it at full speed. Let's talk about the run defense first, because that's where the change was most obvious. In week 1, Buffalo looked vulnerable, missed assignments, poor gap integrity, and way too many yards after contact. Fast forward to week 2, and they finish as the number 1 defense in the league in expected points added per rush. That's not a small correction. That's a complete reversal in just 1 week, and it happened without their best interior defensive lineman, Ed Oliver. Instead of falling apart, they locked in. It wasn't about one player dominating. It was team defense in its purest form. The front 7 was playing fast and physical. You had defensive linemen holding their gaps, linebackers reading keys and triggering downhill, and secondary players filling with urgency. And the tackling? Nearly perfect. Only one missed tackle the entire game, and that was by T.J. Sanders. That's unheard of in today's NFL. It speaks to the level of focus this group brought to the field and how well they rallied to the football. Bobby Babich deserves credit for adjusting the plan. With so many young and rotational players on the defensive line, he simplified things. You could see in the alignments, in the slanting schemes, and in the timing of the run blitzes. He wasn't trying to do too much, just putting guys in positions where they could succeed without overthinking. And it worked. Players like Deion Walker and T.J. Sanders weren't flashy, but they held their ground. They weren't pushed around. They played within the structure of the defense and allowed others to fly around and make plays. That kind of selfless, assignment sound play from young guys is exactly what you need when injuries hit. Joey Bosa, on the other hand, was anything but subtle. He was electric off the edge, racking up 7 pressures, a sack, and 2 forced fumbles, all on just 15 pass rush snaps. That kind of production is ridiculous. It felt like every time he was on the field, something disruptive was happening. And while Bosa gets the highlight stats, his success was connected to what the rest of the defense was doing. When rushers stay in their lanes and keep the quarterback boxed in, it gives your elite guys like Bosa a chance to close in and finish. That's exactly what happened. There was no escape for the Jets quarterback because the entire defensive line was working in sync, and the coverage behind it was tight enough to buy the extra half-second Bosa needed to wreak havoc. The secondary stepped up as well, especially against the run. Tre'Davious White made his return and immediately reminded everyone that he's more than just a cover guy. He was physical. Twice he had to fill a gap on run plays that came right at him, and both times he stepped up and made the stop. That's a huge boost for a team asking its corners to contribute in the run game, especially when they're slanting the defensive front and exposing the edges. White looked sharp, and more importantly, he looked confident. Christian Benford also stood out with a couple of game-changing plays. The reverse he blew up in the backfield and the third down tackle on Breece Hall were both highlight reel-level efforts. Plays like that don't just kill drives, they energize your defense. And when everyone's flying around and making tackles in space, it's a sign that your preparation and communication are locked in. Cole Bishop deserved a shout-out, too. His timing, his positioning, the way he attacked downhill, it was all a notch better than week 1. The game looked slower for him, and that's when you know a young safety is starting to figure it out. The 5-man rush also continued to be a theme, used on nearly a quarter of the Jets' passing plays. That's notable because the Bills didn't have to do it. They had a comfortable lead for most of the game and could have played it safe. Instead, they stayed aggressive. And even though they didn't fully empty the bag, no need to show your best looks in a blowout. You could see the intent. This defense wants to be the type that keeps quarterbacks guessing. They're not going to sit back and wait. They're going to bring numbers, disguise pressures, and make you prove you can handle it. Before we dive back in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest Buffalo Bills updates straight to your screen. And hey, don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts on today's news down in the comments. Rumors are swirling around Buffalo as insiders report tension mounting between Bills head coach Sean McDermott and one of his star players. According to sources close to the team, McDermott allegedly told the player, "You don't play with me anymore," a statement that has set off a firestorm among fans and analysts alike. The identity of the player has not been officially confirmed, but speculation points to someone pivotal in the roster whose presence or absence could dramatically shift the balance of the team this season. The comments, reportedly made in a heated locker room exchange, have fueled speculation about internal discord within the Bills camp. For a team coming off a season filled with high expectations, such a public declaration of discontent from the head coach is rare and has left many questioning the locker room atmosphere. Insiders suggest that this confrontation may be the culmination of ongoing disagreements over playing time, strategy, or leadership dynamics. Fans have taken to social media, debating the implications. Some argue that McDermott's tough love approach has always been part of his coaching philosophy, citing past incidents where he has benched players to enforce accountability. Others are concerned this could mark a fracture in team cohesion at a critical juncture in the season. Analysts point out that chemistry is key in the NFL, and a breakdown between coach and player of this magnitude can ripple through the entire roster. Speculation now surrounds the Bills' next steps. Will they trade the player or attempt to reconcile the relationship behind closed doors? League insiders say that teams are always alert for such opportunities, and a high-profile conflict could easily trigger a mid-season shakeup. McDermott, known for his measured public statements, has yet to comment officially, but sources suggest he is firm in his stance. Meanwhile, the player is said to be processing the remarks, though there is no indication yet of a formal response or grievance. As the Bills prepare for upcoming matchups, the drama unfolding off the field is drawing as much attention as the action on it. For now, fans are left to speculate, with the rumor mill running at full speed. How serious is this split, and what will it mean for Buffalo's playoff aspirations? One thing is clear. The tension between McDermott and his player has already become the latest story everyone in the league is watching closely. That's a wrap for now. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay on top of all things Buffalo Bills, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. We'd love to hear what you think in the comments. See you in the next update.